Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of Global Comic Safari. I am Jon Z, here with Matt Roybal from Foreign Comic Collector Magazine. And today we are going to talk about a fairly small but interesting set, Iron Man 55. Some interesting things about it we'll get into, and just kind of talk about some other things that aren't in the true set, but just random oddball things of inside pieces and strange things the foreign world does to them.
Yeah.
But we want to start out and just show a couple books we picked up this week, just because it's fun.
Heck yeah, it's fun. I love pickups.
I got one this week, and it'll look very familiar for any of you that's tuned in before. I got this guy.
The Lebanese.
The Lebanese. Dang. This is the first counterfeit, or second edition, we'll call it. As we talked about on last show. Gosh, I can't get a good angle of it, but it is a really vibrant copy of it. I mean, as we discussed it sometime in the 90s, so it's not that old, but there just aren't a lot of copies floating around of this book. So,
yeah, I would love one. Well, I've been looking for one of those too for a while, and haven't come across one for myself.
A good buddy in the group, Raphael Les, hooked me up with this one, so very, very happy to find it, added in the set. I'm down to needing a U.S. one for some god-awful reason I don't have, and a Navarro, which I got a good line on. So hopefully we'll finish this set out soon.
Nice, and it's a big thing when you can finish a set.
Yeah,
or at least the known finished.
It'll be sort of finished till I find a first print Lebanese, which may be 20 years from now.
Could be a while, John. I hate to break it to you.
Absolutely. So I'll settle for what I got.
That's cool.
All right. So what'd you get?
I got a few things. I think at one of the shows I had showed off the Reinas. I got this Reina de la Costa Negra.
Oh yeah.
So for people that don't know what this is a Mexican Conan from the 60s, this run, and it came in before the Marvel Conan of 1970. So this is a piece of Conan comic history, and I got 2 of them. So I'm not going to lie to myself and pretend I'm going to build this whole run.
No.
I love to, even when they pop up and I can get them, I love to get them. So I got this one. This one was a issue 12. So there's I think there's 50 something of these books.
It's a nice coloring on it.
Yeah, it's really beautiful coloring, and it's a low number. Once you get into the pre-20s, they start getting much more difficult to find.
What that 1 through 6 set sell for like $15K, something crazy.
Oh yeah, and that one was I think those were the ones from the 50s. These are the ones from the 60s. But I know that there was a friend of ours named David Stuckey. He bought a 1 through 7 or something, and he paid a couple grand for it. I don't remember the exact, but this is an early one. This is a number 8.
Oh wow.
So being in the low teens, under the 10, yeah, when I saw this, I said, I have to have it, baby. I have to have it.
That's nice with Conan kind of in the background.
Yeah, you got Conan right there. You got in the Conan stories, I forget what his homeboy's called, but on this he's called Yenga.
Okay.
And of course, Belet, the Queen of the Black Coast, right there.
Yeah.
And it's just, the art on these is just gorgeous. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
So I got 2 of those. I got a really old 60s Navarro. This is a Mystery in Space. I think it was 19, but I can't remember. This one was cheap out of Florida.
You just grab it when you can.
Yeah, and this one, it's got a little issue with some moisture damage. It's got like a spot, like someone spilled some water on it. But whenever you see old early 60s Navarros, see in the corner, in the Navarro corner, see the eagle?
Yeah.
Whenever you see the eagle, you know it's an older Navarro from the 60s. And if you see it in nice condition, you know that it's a survivor. So whether the book's key or not, I tend to pick these eagles up.
Just give it a home.
Yeah, I'll give it a home. You can come live with me. And then this is probably, you remember on the Tales podcast, Nico was talking about the spanking book.
Yeah.
This book has kind of come to light recently.
Oh, that is the book, huh?
This is the book. This is one that I own. I'm helping Nico get one through our buddy Cecilio in Mexico.
He did say it looked like Elvis. I didn't think about
so
it.
that
when
guy
you showed it.
looks like Elvis. Look, I mean,
He's got a little Elvis
really
vibe.
looks like Elvis, man. And she's getting her nice perky little ass spanked.
Yeah.
Now, is it a little weird, maybe misogynistic? Yeah, but there's something funky about it that I like.
Yeah, I got another title or another book from that run from a guy. It wasn't that cover, but yeah, it's a crazy little
It's just
run there.
It's just you would never see anything like that on an American newsstand. You know what I mean?
No. You get some crazy stuff out there.
So I like picking up crazy foreigns. I tend to have a problem.
Well, it's like the pre-code horror collectors. You're buying things you can't see anymore. Just weirdness.
And I tend to have a problem with going outside of my focus because I try to stay focused on my sets, but there's so many cool foreigns out there. I joke with the horror guys in the group. They're trying to make me a foreign horror guy, and it's working, man. They're shipping so many awesome horror foreigns, and I'm like, God, I want them. I have one in the mail that's stuck in Mexico Customs right now that I'm waiting on.
Well, it'll show up.
So I'm hoping on that. But yeah, good scores.
You gotta wait. You gotta be patient. I got a book I ordered 3 weeks ago that still hasn't really hit anywhere near me. So you just got to keep waiting it out.
Patience, and that's another thing. If we're talking about set building and talking about being in the foreign game, you got to get used to being very patient because stuff crawls through customs.
Absolutely,
it just does. Both countries. It's got to go through customs in both countries.
Absolutely. So, sometimes it's just irritating. So you just got to wait. So
yeah, it's a lesson in patience, which we all need, I think.
All right, so we are going to get on with the actual set at hand and talk about some Thanos. So
Iron Man 55.
So the importance of this book: first appearance Thanos, first Drax, first Star Fox, several other of the Marvel cosmic characters appeared in Jim Starlin written book. So it's a big book. It's not rare by any means. I was actually surprised. There were over 4,000 CGC graded.
Really?
80 of them in 9.8, which blew my mind. 80 copies in 9.8.
Maybe because of the white cover.
The white cover
doesn't show color break.
No. So a 9.8 is going to run you about $5,000. Like I said, there's 80 of them. I don't know if I mentioned it came out in February of '73. This one was convenient because CGC actually listed the Pence copies on this on the census too.
Oh, great!
58 graded examples on the census of the Pence edition, and
what were the higher grades on
them? A set of 9.4s. So
there's no 9.8 Pences.
No 9.8. 9.4 is the highest. I don't think we need to get too in the weeds, but I'll just same cover. That's the American. There's the Pence. The only difference is over in the price. It's 6 pence. You've seen many of them. There's a lot of chatter in some of the boards saying that these were the earlier ones on the run and that kind of stuff.
I've heard that too.
I don't know that there's any truth. Nico, we mentioned before, does Nico Time interviews with he did one with Steve Brock, and he kind of couldn't confirm or deny that either. So it's one of those rumors collectors are after, but it is the same book, came out the same time, just probably hit the newsstands a little later as just shipping and all that good stuff. But
yeah, it definitely hit Britain later, and we'll get into that.
So for many years, the Pences were a little more affordable. People are kind of getting into them, so they definitely picked up steam. Used to get them for at least half, and now I bet they're closer to 70%, sometimes more on the right book. So
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. So and it's a good way to get a book if you can get it at a little discount. I think a higher grade one's going to get more of a premium. A low grade Pence, you'll probably still get closer to that half price.
Yeah.
So what do you want to talk about next? Which book you want to hit?
Well, let's stick a pin in the Pence for a second.
All right.
And let's go to the French Canadian.
All right. The French Canadian. This is the slightly different look of it on this guy.
Yeah, it definitely does. This is the French Canadian, El Invincible Iron Man issue 10. published by Editions Heritage in May of 1973. The interiors of this book are black and white, and it contains Iron Man 55 and Apache Kid 12.
Huh.
Now,
Western.
a Western. It sure as heck does. This one has a SIG on it. Yeah, it does have the SIG on it. I remember, whose SIG is that, John? I don't remember where that came from. Is that a Starlin SIG?
It doesn't look like Starlin to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. So the Editions Heritage were printed for the French speakers in Canada. At the time that the Editions Heritage were being published, Canada actually had comic book stores. So according to the collectors there, the French Canadian collectors, I believe these were sold on newsstands in French Canada, so Quebec and all those areas. And I don't think they were in comic book stores. Maybe they were in a few in French Canada, but I think for the most part, these were books that you had to buy off the stands. You could not get them in a comic book store, which, speaks to not only rarity but also condition.
It's a pretty limited, even part of Canada. It's not, it's not even a whole country. It's just part of a country.
No, yeah, it's just a province. So, as far as I know, I mean,
there may be
Quebecois. They're probably going to come back and say you screwed that all up. But yeah, I think it's just a province, and so the print runs on these had to have been much lower. An interesting factoid.
Because people talk about the Canadian price variance being rare. This is, let's
this is going to be way rarer, I think.
Absolutely.
And an interesting note on this. We talk about all the time, like the data and the information that we get when we're talking about these books, but sometimes you have to be really careful. And this is one instance where CGC and CBCS, I think, have made mistakes on the publishing date on this.
Okay.
So yeah, this on the inside, actually, it is written 1972.
Huh.
That is wrong. That's the date that Marvel did a copyright on the indicia, but the Editions Heritage Guide, there were some French Canadian collectors that actually created a guide, and these guys know everything about these books. This book actually didn't hit the stands until May of 1973. So the 1972 date is a misprint by CGC, and I think CBCS now has the date right if you were to get this slapped, but I think they might have even made according to a collector that I spoke to where I got this scan, even they might have made this mistake on this book. So yeah, sometimes you can't even trust what you read on the inside of foreigns if you don't know really what's going on. So yeah, this is May 1973. One of the things we see is they took that banner on the bottom and they took the black out. Did you see that?
On the top too.
Yeah, in the top. Watch, switch over to the American.
Because it's definitely it's a lot. I don't want to say more basic. It just loses a little pizzazz.
Yeah. Yeah, no. They kind of did something to that banner on the bottom, and it kind of loses some contrasty pop.
Yeah, it's a little more subdued.
It's more subdued for sure. But I will tell you one thing for dang sure: this was an early foreign that people were hunting pretty strongly.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's not a whole lot of these flowing around.
Last 10 years, Thanos has been just Thanos.
Yeah, he's huge. So for the French Canadian collectors, this is a must-have book. So it's not like this book is floating around out there a whole lot for Americans to grab. I mean, there are some that pop up on occasion, but I can tell you because I know some French collectors, French Canadian collectors. They know that Americans. Yeah, they know Americans are seeking this book out. So if they were to sell it, it would cross the border and it'll never make its way back up here.
Oh no!
So the French Canadian collectors that are trying to complete the Iron Man run, they know this book is key, and they're hoarding them. So yeah, this has been a
set that's probably a lot of builders, just a small set.
Yeah, it's very small. So people have been building this set for a while, and I've seen this book sell in like completely crazy low grades where it was literally pulled from a bind, and I've seen it sell in ultra higher grades. This book is a winner, man.
Okay.
And it's kind of nice. I like the Invincible above the title.
Yeah.
There is a kind of weird color thing on the circle. You'll notice like a black you'll notice a black bar in the circle.
Yeah.
Like a weird thing that happened when they printed. But fun book. Got to be a little careful with some of these being trimmed because they were put in binds. So if you're trying to buy this book and it looks like it might have been trimmed, or you might see a little bit of glue on the spine, then that kind of is the telltale sign that this was pulled from a bind. This book was included in their what they call toming, and they're called comicoramas. And so some of these, and so you'll have collectors that know Americans pay big money for this book, so they'll just destroy a comicorama to pull this issue out to then sell on the American market. So you got to be very careful.
So you talked about this before. Is this the original book put into a bind?
Yep.
Not a reprint.
Not reprinted.
So they just bound the original later.
They bound the original. So they took extra inventory and then bound them into comicoramas and then printed new covers for them. And that made sense for the collectors at the time there because you got a deal on, you got multiple stories and that. But for collectability for the later date, a bunch of these books got destroyed by being put into tomes, by being put into comicoramas. So when you're buying this issue, honestly, when you're buying any EH, don't pay attention to your edges. If you think they've been trimmed, this is a book that you can tell because look on the bottom. Do you see how in the banner it says sanguinarius? I think that might have to deal with blood, like blood brothers. Look how close that gets to the edge. If it's missing any of that exclamation point or it's getting close to the S, there's probably a good chance it was trimmed.
Okay. So we're going to round out to the last known edition of the cover set. And that's not it. Bad graphics today. And to one of our favorite countries to talk about.
Yeah, this is a bad boy. This book is tough. Now, before I get into the details of it, let me explain why it's so tough. It's tough because the Iron Man run in Greece. So this is so let me give the stats. This is the Greek Ipon Man. I don't know how to say Greek. This is the Greek Ipon Man, and it's number 3. It was printed in 1977. No, sorry, my mistake. It was printed in 1978, in February of 1978. It was published by Cabanas Hellas.
So 6 years after.
Yeah. It contains Iron Man 3 and Omega 3, and its interiors are full color and spot color. And this issue, the reason it's so hard to find is that Iron Man was not popular in Greece at all. I think he only made it to like maybe 12 issues, something like that. They just weren't selling. For some reason, the Greeks were not interested in Iron Man. They just weren't. And so Cabanas Hellas pulled the title and stopped publishing it. It was a stinker. It was a turd. So because of that, I actually think that a lot of these got pulped. I think a lot of these got returned back to the publisher and they got destroyed. So this is a difficult book. I'm not going to call it a ghost, but I think it's a monster of a sourcing difficulty book to find. Now, what makes this book so funky, and what makes the Greeks in general so funky, is that most of the time on the early Cabanas Hellas books, you did not have matching cover and guts. Okay? So this book has Iron Man 3 and Omega 3 in it. It does not have the Iron Man 55 story at all.
So it doesn't even have Drax on the cover. Who's on the cover is not in the book. That's beautiful.
There's no Drax, there's no Blood Brothers, there's no Thanos, there ain't shit. It's Iron Man 3.
They totally lied to those kids.
So they lied to these kids, but this is what's
they ditched this book. You're lying to me. You're not giving me the Thanos.
This is what's even crazier about this book. So they knew they had the Iron Man 3 interior, so they had to figure out a way to make it match the interior. So, like on a normal Iron Man 55, it says beware or whatever, the Blood Brothers, whatever. So on our bottom banner in Greek, so on the bottom banner in Greek, instead of saying anything about the Blood Brothers in Greece, what it says is, my friend, or what the original Iron Man 3 said on the cover was, my friend, my foe, the fearsome freak. Okay? They translated the Iron Man 3 call out from Iron Man 3 cover into Greek here, my friend, my enemy, the fastidious. What the fuck's fastidious?
I have no idea.
Well, I know what fastidious. It's someone that pays attention to detail. It's someone that is very aware about their surroundings. They dot every I and cross every T.
But that doesn't match the description that we're going for here.
How does fastidious compare with freak?
Oh, I don't know.
So that was weird already. So then they have Drax up on the top. Okay, so they had to figure out a way to fill those word balloons of what Drax is saying, right?
Yeah.
So they had to figure out a way to make it correlate with the Iron Man 3 interiors. So Drax says in the left balloon, "Look out because he kills." And in the right balloon, he says, "He has inside him the deadly impact of cobaltium." Huh. So the freak in Iron Man 3, I don't know the character's name right off the top of my head, but I guess he was transformed by cobaltium. So that's how they tied them together.
But they don't worry that none of these guys show up in the issue.
Who cares?
Good enough.
That is what makes the Greek Cabanas Hellas Marvels so interesting and neat, is that you have so many funky weirdnesses. You have weird ass stories that they will combine with others. Like some of these Marvel superhero will have Western in there. You'll have spot color, full color. You'll have funky ads. You'll have translation issues like this, like fastidious and freak. What the hell is that? You have covers that don't match. You have, they're just, and then the art. You can see that the way they handled the text. Now the Iron Man came out really good, but like you can look in it almost looks like someone just drew that in there. They're very rough, but extremely novel books. I love these books.
Yeah, I got to say the title is my least favorite Greek. It doesn't have a lot of pizzazz like some of them, though.
Yeah, but when you land any of these Cabanas books, they're awesome additions to your collection. They're rad.
So we promised a little more craziness in this.
John, could you bring up the pence real quick?
You want to go back to the pence?
Yeah, let's go back to the pence. There was something I wanted to talk about on that.
All right.
Okay. So like you said, there was debate about when these were printed in the run. Honestly, I don't care if they're printed first. I don't care if they're printed last. I don't care if they're printed in the goddamn middle. The Pence's copies are way rarer and had to survive way more shit than the American books. The Pence's, like you said, are exactly the same. With the exception of the Pence pricing and with the exception of in the indicia, I think they say distributed by Thorpe and Porter. So they were the ones that were bringing them into the UK. Thorpe and Porter began distributing these in the UK in around Marvels, and I think some DCs possibly, but we know for sure on the Marvels, around October, November of 1959, they started bringing comics over. And one of the interesting thing about the UK Pences is, according to the latest info that I've read, they believe these were used as ship ballast.
What?
So ship's ballast. So when they're loading a cargo ship, they there's the master loaders have to figure out the weight so that a ship is even, and there's ballast on there, right? So if something's heavy on one side and not, I think that a lot of publications maybe that were being imported over to the UK were actually, they would just put them wherever they needed on the ship as ballast. So when we say that these happened later, the publication dates when these made it to the UK, these had to have been at least a month or two, maybe even 3 later than the American issues, because they had to be on a ship and make it across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I don't remember when the last time I knew how long it takes to take a ship ride across the Atlantic. But, that was a thing. Another thing that I've heard UK collectors say about these books is that you often found them in shipping towns where ships docked. That makes sense. And because of that, they suffered from a real uneven distribution. So if you were an unlucky kid in the UK and you were unlucky in the town that you were, you might not see this book Or I've heard some collectors say that they would be, religiously following the run and buying, and then boom, 3 of them didn't show up, or one wouldn't show up, or so there'd be gaps and holes in the run depending on where you're at in the UK. The best thing for you if you're a kid that collected these in the UK was to be on the coasts.
Huh.
So that's an interesting little bit of history on that.
Heck yeah.
And there's way more pences, like you said, in the registry. You're going to find a high grade American, no problem. But finding a high grade pence, it's going to be a little more difficult. Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's talk about this guy.
Okay. So we're getting into books that don't use the cover of Iron Man 55. Now, some collectors don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with it, but my issue with these books is I like them. I'll pick them up when I can, but I'm not going to hunt them like a crazy hunter with a spear. I like these books, but I'm not going to go out. I'm completionist in my mind, but I'm not that completionist in my mind. But the interesting thing about these books is there's a lot of variety and interesting stories. This is the Spanish Vertiz, El Hombre de Hierro 28. It was published by Vertiz in 1973, and the interiors contain Iron Man 54, 55, and Journey into Mystery 56.
So this one at least makes sense because it's got the redrawn cover of 54.
Yes.
So they just combined them.
Yeah, they combined them. Lopez Espy redid the covers. Will you put the side-by-side, John, please?
Yeah, so I mean, they're similar.
Similar-esque. And Lopez Espy was a really wonderful artist in Spain. He's considered a maestro, and Spanish comic collectors can put him on a pedestal as far as artists that were there during the time of the Marvel explosion in Spain.
It's a bit more detailed.
Yeah, and his lines are like finer, and he's a damn good artist. There's no complaints on him. I have no problem with him redoing. The only problem that I have is, okay, Iron Man 54, it's okay, but I would have loved to see him reimagine the Iron Man 55.
But to be fair, if you're the artist looking at the two covers, this is the more fun one to draw.
That one might be more fun.
Because Iron Man 55 is not that great a cover. It just
a lot of people don't like it. Yeah.
It's iconic, not fantastic.
It's not that it's that great. Yeah, true.
This is more interesting.
And it's kind of like it's under the ocean, and I like the contrast of the red on the blues. It's a really cool book.
Absolutely.
And these books can be a little tough to find too. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Spanish Vertiz, the early ones, sometimes you can find them, but they're trashed. Finding nicer copies is difficult.
Well, all right. So one more of these non-cover. Well, one more before we get to the really wonkiness of the show.
Yeah.
This guy.
Okay. This is the Italian Lobo Ragno number 144. This was published by Corno in November of 1975. This is basically a Spider-Man book, and it contains Marvel Team Up 15, Iron Man 55, and Mystical Tales 7. And
I don't even know what Mystical Tales is.
I'm not quite sure. But they did it full color, and Corno books are beautiful.
Yeah.
Show the splash page.
Let me see here. There we go.
I say all the time, Italian Cornos are beautiful, beautiful books. They're printed on nice paper. The printing quality is amazing. The covers are like cardstocky. They came with stickers. They came with posters. They came with medals.
The bad thing about the cardstock cover is you can't do much with them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're just neat. What a neat publisher. One of these days, we're going to have to do a show all about just Italian Corno. Rad books.
Absolutely.
So if you're building this set, pick this up.
Yeah, it's not probably very cheap because nobody even knows it's in there.
Yeah, it's not going to be a real expensive book. Just hit up Italian eBay and find it. This is definitely going to be an easier one to find.
Yeah. All right. So we promised you some craziness. This book, this last one is I think we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it on this show or on the flip side at some point. A a double key, if you will.
A double key. Yeah. That's kind of what we've kind of been calling them. It's a double key. Okay, so this is another Greek book. See how interesting the Greek books are? They're just awesome.
Well, yeah, it's got that background that just, I'm not even sure what they did with it.
It's like they added lines. This is the Greek, published by Cabanas Hellas in 1985. This is the Greek 150. It contains Spider-Man 238, Iron Man 55, and Avengers 55. The interiors are black and white, and it has a magenta spot color to it.
So I'm going to show, show the interior here.
Show an interior shot here. So that's Thanos' robot or whatever, if I remember correctly, the story. Yeah. Do you see how it's black and white with the magenta spot coloring?
Yeah, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before on some of the earlier shows, but this is a good example of what it is.
Is the Spider-Man part also magenta?
No, it's black and white. They pick and choose. So it swaps from black and white into magenta spot, depending on like the story, and they just kind of swap back and forth. And they did this. I think they did this really to save money, and not having to do the CMYK printing process. You're only using 2 plates. You're only using 2 colors, and it's just probably cheaper on ink. But it makes for a very interesting looking book, interior art wise.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unique. I usually like the red as the kind of spot color, but this is definitely different. But for Iron Man, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So,
but what I really like this book is the next image here.
All right, so this one is the one that is crazy to me.
Okay, so 238 last panel, and I don't remember what the Hobgoblin says. What does he say, John? There.
Oh,
Beware me or something. I don't remember. We have the last panel of 238, the Hobgoblin, and then we've got the Iron Man 55 splash page. So you literally have 2 keyness elements just sandwiched right in there.
Only thing that would make this better is if this one, I would love to see this page color, but
spot colored, that would be cool. But I mean, this is a great form, man. This is, again, like I've said before, I don't necessarily care about the ones that don't have the cover as much.
But this one has a key cover. Just not the one you want.
But I build the 238 set, so this was a no-brainer for me anyway. But this is a cool book. And at this time, Cabanas Hellas had changed the size over to digest. This is a digest size book.
Oh,
yeah, man. It's a digest size. I think I have one up here. Hold on 1 second. That's right here, actually.
Well, that probably also plays into the printing, because I bet it's just they were trying to save money and get them out cheap. So
this,
a little bit larger digest.
It might be a little bit larger,
So,
but it's not normal comic sized by any stretch of the means.
So how hard is this one to find?
At this time in the Cabanas run, Cabanas was just doing Spider-Man. I believe they were just doing the Spider-Man. They dropped all the other titles. Spider-Man was their longest running title. And I don't think it's outrageously hard to find because it was printed later. What did I say? It was an 85?
Yeah.
So those by that time, I think maybe these books were being saved and hoarded more.
Okay.
I think you could probably land one of these between 30 and $50 plus shipping. You could probably get out of Greece for that price. You're going to have Americans that are going to price it more if it's here in America already.
Absolutely.
But if you wait around, a lot of the Greek sellers are selling on American eBay.
You got to be willing to factor in shipping in, and a lot of that sometimes when you're in America, you're to factor in that person paid shipping to get it here.
Yeah, exactly. So of course it's going to be more. If you're buying it here in America, like let's say if I had this copy and I was going to put it on eBay, I might start at like $100 just because it's a key book, just because I know it's rare, and just for my trouble and having to source it, because it's not like you can just contact any Greek over in Greece and say I need a 238, send it over right now. Like it will take you a little bit of time, but in comparison to the earlier Cabanas Hellas Iron Man #3 Greek that we showed earlier in the show, it's going to be much easier to find than that one. That one will give you some fits.
All right. So interesting stuff on this book. I know we had talked. We planned on doing Iron Man 1 for this episode, but that one proved to have a lot of history in it and a lot of things going on. So we kicked that down the curb for at least a week, but we do have it on our agenda. This one popped up as something fun that we thought we could get you quick and show you something interesting, show you some cool books, as well as the double key. We talked about some of these. We may have to just do a special episode on some double keys just to throw them out there.
Yep.
So
for sure.
We will be back with you soon. And Matt, you can catch him on the Foreign Comic Collectors Magazine official group on Facebook. You can also catch you on Foreign Comic Callings
podcast.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm Jon Z. You can catch me on Tales from the FlipSide Weekly, occasionally hitting up on the CBSI Top 10 show. And we'll be back here next week-ish. Won't promise, but we'll go with ish. And we'll see you then. Thanks, guys.
Cool.